atomic gigantification was a sweeping Japan nation when along came a dude with an ultra attitude, a Kamen Rider who's the greatest kicker of Japan. And of all, man, life's too short now, baby, to not talk big now, baby.
Broadcasting across the globe from Two Guys' Room, this is Kaiju Conversation. I'm your host, Elijah, and joining me, as always, my lovely co-host and editor.
Hello, I'm Rex.
And here we are at the season finale. The end, technically it's not a season finale because this doesn't count, but that's being technical. But we are at the end of season 5, a retroactive season that was created when we launched the website. 5 seasons, Rex. And you've been around for all but 2 of them.
Yeah, but hey, I've been here for the best one, so that's all that matters.
That is very true. It's just like any sitcom, you know, the first season it's a little awkward. It's like, where are these guys going? Season 2, it's like, okay.
You find your footing, you know?
Yeah, it just took us about 30 episodes to get the footing.
Yeah. How many movies did it take to get everything, every aspect of the Godzilla or the Gamera series, you know, every iconic aspect?
Well, see, the problem with that is once they figure it out, they fumble at the next movie.
Yeah, but look, these things happen. We're not going to follow their example.
From Final Wars, you got 2014. Not a horrible fumble, but still a fumble. From Gamera the Brave, you got Gamera Rebirth.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Not stellar, but...
both so lame.
Yeah. That being said, we are officially concluding the show. It's a little delayed. We had some hiccups. All of that will be discussed in the season premiere of season 6. Gamera versus Viras. That episode is going to have a lot of getting you guys caught up on what happened in the 4 months we've been gone. But we're back. We're not quitting. I'm not planning on retiring or quitting anytime soon. I don't know about Rex, but
hey, no quitters around these parts.
We have to at least get through the entirety of the Godzilla franchise. At least. Yeah. And if we're doing Godzilla, we got to do Gamera. And if we're doing Godzilla and Gamera, we got to do King Kong. And I want to do Ultraman.
Yeah, and it just never ends.
It doesn't.
We're going to be here the rest of our lives, probably.
Eventually, it'll become like once a quarter because that's all we'll have time for. Like when we have families and jobs and kids and like we're trying to like juggle like full-time jobs that are what we want to do with our lives.
Hey, this will be great when we're in retirement. Our schedule will be amazing.
That's true, yeah, because then what will happen is we'll go from guaranteed once a month to once every other month to once a quarter. And then...
and when we're retired, once a day.
Yeah. But Rex, we are here for what I quite enjoy, honestly. This is the culmination of all of our podcasts. This is where we finally really get to hear what our audience thinks. This is where the audience really impacts, quite literally, what the show is doing. We're doing the Convies this year. And the Convies are, honestly, I love seeing the listeners vote and put in their input and put in their thoughts and really push for various films because, as they will hear today, I'm assuming, not everything that we think is the best or worst is what they think. And what you think is the best or worst is not what I think. And so this is a time to really celebrate all of the work that we've put in and what the people have taken from not only what we've talked about, but the movies themselves.
It's also just in general a good time to reflect on the absolute ride that was the year 2024 for you, myself, and I'm sure the audience as well.
Yeah, no kidding. Obviously, like we'll talk about what happened in the transition 25 next episode, but no, the sheer amount of stuff that we did. This is actually something I'll share now because I just found out about this tonight and I wanted to tell you about it. So I can't go into details, but I'm looking through various listings of kaiju movies, and one of these lists had a sub list of titles that they couldn't locate much information on. And, you know, some of it was like 8mm cuts of kaiju movies or, you know, compilation films or TV shows in general or something. And I was scrolling through, and some of it's like upcoming stuff that hasn't came out yet, right? And as I'm scrolling, I get to the year 2024. I'm like, let's see what's all here. You're not going to believe what was on this list.
What?
Edo Kami no Gyakushu. I was like, how did they find it? Like how do they know the title and that it exists? I was shocked. So for anybody who's listening who doesn't know or wasn't here for me, so I directed a short film for G-Fest. It's an original kaiju film called Edo Kami no Gyakushu. And it's on this dude's list of kaiju movies. Because it does cover short films. It's got some fan films. Like he's been really extensive in his research. And so like I saw that and I was freaking out.
God damn. Maybe he's a listener. Who knows?
Who knows? Maybe. So if you are listening and you did that, thank you so much. You made my night. You made my week. You made my month. And honestly, probably top like 5 things of the year so far.
See, that's exactly what I mean. So much growth has happened in both of our lives, and I'm sure the audiences that sometimes we just have to take a step back at and appreciate, you know?
No, absolutely. I think it's a good point for us to reflect. Granted, we can't remember everything because if you add up because
our memories are horrific.
Yeah, if you add up all the research time, the watch time, the recording time, and then like the edited episodes alone, there's probably over 30 hours worth of content. If you do the unedited stuff, I guarantee you it's probably closer to 50.
You thought the other day we'd only called like maybe 4 times across the start of this year, which is insane.
I think that just kind of goes to show like so much happens, you know, in general. I think so much happens, and that is a point of really just how crazy life can be. Being able to, like, you know, like I was saying, being able to reflect on what you were saying, you know, reflect and look back at the growth and the progress and the development of everything. I think now is a great time to look back at. I mean, if I'm going to be perfectly honest, I think Kaiju Conversation had a banger year. Genuinely.
I'd have to agree.
And I'm very excited, and I can't wait to actually get going here and really celebrate all the work that we've done.
Yeah, 2024, absolute banger.
Yeah, 2024, in all honesty, was a blockbuster year for Kaiju Conversation as well. You know, we saw various themed months like July's Daikaiju month, the conclusion of Kawasaki month, for now at least, Yokai Halloween horror, major movie releases such as Ultraman Rising and Godzilla Kong: The New Empire.
Your favorite.
I know. Such a horrible movie.
Can't wait to see that on your favorite film award.
We crossed the threshold for episode 100 as we covered my acting debut film Zillafoot. You know, Godzilla dominated the content this year with not only various bonus episodes, but covering the entirety of the late Showa era, from the monster romp of epic proportions and Destroy All Monsters to the titanic conclusion where Godzilla battles his metallic doppelganger in Terror of Mechagodzilla. King Kong also got to shine with coverage of not only King Kong Escapes, but John Gullerman's dyad of men-in-suit effects and outlandish ideas like monkey breasts. But Rex and I didn't do it alone this year. This year saw various special guests from filmmakers that worked on the movies we love to super fans that have gone out of their way to help make an impact on the genre. Yoshikazu Ishii, Masanori Machida, Jacob Lingle, Carell Christie, and Sean Pryor all gave their time to present us with the wealth of knowledge they come with and experiences from years of being kaiju fans and makers. Now, as we transition into Season 6 of Kaiju Conversation, which guarantees to bring you the varying titles from indie hits to big-budget knockouts, we have to look back at the year prior and celebrate the best and worst of Kaiju Conversation.
Well, to start us off, as this podcast is seemingly forever cursed by the influence of Sadako and our love of Japanese horror, I am pleased to present the nominees of the Sadako's Video Award for this year's Biggest Scare. The nominees are Yeti Nipples, The God's Awakening in DiManna, The Story of Roku Dokubi in Yokai Monsters 100 Monsters, Zillafoot 2021, Hedorah's Flying Attack in Godzilla vs. Hedorah, Lady Kong's Breasts, and the winner for Sadako's Video Award is Hedorah's Flying Attack in Godzilla vs. Hedorah.
I'm not surprised by this.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I can't say I'm too surprised. I mean, for one, it's Godzilla. You know, there might be a slight bias with the audience here.
A little bit. You know, I think, you know, about half of the nominees that ended up being nominated are more comedic. Like, this is so bad, it's scary kind of winners or nominees. Whereas some of them are also scary and some of them are just cool.
Right.
I think Hedorah's Flying Attack is one of two valid nominees for an actual scary sequence. The other, obviously, I think, being the Roku Dokubi in Yokai Monsters.
I mean, I think the woman in the wall sequence in Cloverfield Paradox, if we ignore everything around it in that film, I think that from what I remember of that sequence, at least the idea of it is legitimately creative and works to an interesting and kind of terrifying concept.
Now so if anybody didn't listen to last year's Convies, the way we do this, we give the nominees and we give the winner that was voted for by the listeners, and that is the winner. But then we also provide our picks for what we would define as the winner. And so it's funny you bring up that specific one, Rex, because my vote for the Sadako's Video Award would have went towards the woman in the wall sequence and the Cloverfield Paradox. I thought that was by far the scariest scene in any film we covered this year.
It's definitely probably the only scene I remember from that movie outside of the monster scenes.
Absolutely agree with that. The setup with the screams and like the reveal, like it doesn't sound right.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That scene's coming back to me a bit. Yeah.
So Rex, what would you have voted for? Are you also voting for Paradox here, or did you have a different winner in mind?
I think I have to put mine towards Zillafoot. And I'm sure you know why. I'm sure if there's anything you remember, I'm sure it's my experience watching that for the first time and then the second time.
It was rough.
I think I actually got depressed at a certain point watching it, from what I remember.
Yeah, you did. I do remember that when we were watching it together, you for the first time. I think at one point you were just like, I want this to end. I'm so done.
If I'm remembering correctly, that was roughly around the 25 to 30 minute mark. I think Zillafoot is very well deserving of the greatest scare in a certain sense.
Well, at least yours got nominated. Mine did not. Mine did not make it past just the...
That's kind of brutal, honestly.
Yeah.
Maybe that just goes to show how forgettable Cloverfield Paradox is otherwise.
That's what I think. I think at the end of the day, that one's just like, that film is A, forgotten, and B, hated so badly by not only Kaiju fans, but Cloverfield fans. and just Hollywood movie fans that I don't think that had any possible way of making it past the qualifying round.
Right. Yeah.
And, I think to a certain extent, a lot of that can come back to the overall presentation of the film. Not only the script, which is abysmal, but I think the presentation overall, it's very lacking due to its lower budget. And, that's something that when you are creating films, you need to be very mindful of, and you need to utilize the budget you have to create something truly memorable. When talking about doing stuff like that, I can't help but think of how Eiji Tsuburaya spearheaded the genre and styles of tokusatsu from 1925's A Page into Madness, which we really should cover one day.
Real.
This next category takes time to celebrate some of the best special effects sequences in the films covered this year. Some were even made by the master of his craft, Eiji Tsuburaya. And the nominees for the Tsuburaya's Toku Talent Award are the defeat of Daimon in Yokai Monsters Spook Warfare, Daimajin's Rampage in Daimajin, the Osaka Duel in Gamera vs. Barugon, Ghidorah's death in Destroy All Monsters, Tokyo's destruction in Destroy All Monsters, Yeti Nipples, and Godzilla's final stand in Terror of Mechagodzilla.
Some very strong contenders there, by the way.
And the winner of the Tsuburaya's Toku Talent Award is Daimajin's Rampage in Daimajin.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
I was a little worried on this one who would end up winning, simply because you are absolutely right. Like, there's some strong contenders here. I was afraid that people would use their bias for Godzilla to pick one of the 3 nominated Godzilla nominees.
Right.
And so I'm really happy that at the end of the day, I think the film that deserved it the most out of any of these films won that award. I think that's very good. I'm very happy that Daimajin's Rampage won the Tsuburaya's Toku Talent Award.
Is that your pick for the award, or?
Why don't we hear what you pick for the Tsuburaya's Award, and then I'll go.
Like you said, it is a really tough choice. Honestly, I think I would agree with Daimajin's Rampage here. Like, trying to just remove as much bias as I can from Godzilla. I think the Daimajin's Rampage is just such a fantastic showcase of beautiful special effects and just a variety of a lot of different techniques from all the compositing, the beautiful miniature work at real large scale, and also just the giant Daimajin that is really well integrated in the film, that to the point where you really don't notice you don't notice it's a really stiff statue unless like you're specifically looking for where it appears in the film. And so, yeah, honestly, that is probably the most deserving of the award, which means a lot amongst a lot of really, really strong contenders.
Absolutely. No, and to add on to that, there's also, I think, whenever Daimajin throws the buildings at the gate to destroy the gate, there was wireworks there. The matte paintings for the sky, there's even animation. Daimajin appears as a fiery flame first. There's some animation there with some special effects lighting, which in of itself is like its own like thing.
Yeah.
Toho has continuously shut down their effects department, but kept the effects lighting department. The build-up, everything, and it's not just the special effects, it's the music, it's the sound design, it's the acting, it's the writing, it's the staging, right? The cinematography. Everything about Daimajin's Rampage is absolutely remarkable. You want to talk about one of the greatest Showa-era entries for any Rampage, Daimajin's top of the list. I, too, voted Daimajin's Rampage, so it sounds like, I don't remember if we had one of these last year, but this is probably one of the rare occurrences where both you, me, and the audience all agree
It really is just such a strong sequence. But with that being said, Elijah, did you know that in 2024, all 10 of Hollywood's highest grossing feature films were either sequels, remakes, or adaptations?
I didn't know that, but that doesn't surprise me.
Modern audiences just seem to absolutely despise new ideas. And apparently so do we. That's why I'm proud to present the I Don't Know What I've Been Told award for Best Adapted Film. The nominees are Godzilla vs. Hedorah, based on the character Godzilla from Ishiro Honda and Shigeru Kayama, The Whale God, based on The Whale God by Koichiro Uno, Destroy All Monsters, once again based on Godzilla, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, Ultraman Rising, based on Ultraman, created by Eiji Tsuburaya, Terror of Mechagodzilla, once again based on Godzilla, as is All Monsters Attack, Monster X Strikes Back, Attack the G8 Summit, based on The X from Outer Space by Abi Motomochi, Moriyoshi Ishida, and Kazui Nihonmatsu, King Kong Escapes, based on King Kong by Marion C. Cooper and Ernest B. Schudsak, and Godzilla Kong the New Empire, once again based on Godzilla. And the winner is Terror of Mechagodzilla. Yeah, that tracks. I'm not too surprised by that.
So I think, obviously, from the beginning, where I definitely made it very clear that we covered a lot of Godzilla this year. I think that's something that it's not surprising. I mean, if you look at what made it past the qualifying round into the nominees, this is almost entirely Godzilla titles.
Yeah, a good half of it.
With that being said, the other films in this, two of them are a little more obscure. And then you have Ultraman, which I think a lot of people agree that Ultraman's not necessarily the greatest adaptation of the character.
Well, we agreed on that.
Yeah.
I don't know if everyone does, but we agreed on it.
And then, you have King Kong Escapes, which I know historically King Kong fans despise the Toho film.
Yeah, but they're the best King Kong films.
It's not surprising that, first of all, Godzilla dominated this category. It's not surprising that Godzilla also won this category, and especially considering which one did win. Out of the Godzilla titles we're covering, there's 3 of them that are directed by Honda. And so I feel like those 3 probably would be the best choices since the original creator worked on those, right? And from those, you have, of course, Destroy All Monsters, Terror of Mechagodzilla, and All Monsters Attack. I think out of those, generally the one that is most consistently praised is my personal favorite Godzilla film, Terror of Mechagodzilla, which is why that I, too, agree with the audience here in nominating and awarding Terror of Mechagodzilla based on the characters from Godzilla created by Ishiro Honda and Shigeru Kayama.
I feel like this was the most predictable win on your end.
Absolutely. I mean, Terror of Mechagodzilla goes back to the character's roots. You have the original Godzilla theme for the first time in 21 years. You have Honda bringing the film back to its darker, the folly of man, but also the folly of love and how love doesn't necessarily conquer all. You have the dark story behind Mechagodzilla, which isn't a direct callback to the original Godzilla, but the original Godzilla also has a dark background for how it came into existence. And so Katsura and Mechagodzilla and even Titanosaurus, removing the free will of Titanosaurus and how Titanosaurus is actually a good monster, but is an evil monster because he's being controlled. All of that's great.
I'd say it's definitely in the same conversation as a lot of these films mentioned, but for this award specifically, I think I'm going to have to go with Godzilla vs. Hedorah.
I'm not surprised that you would pick that. That's definitely a Rex pick.
What can I say? It takes Godzilla, it takes the themes, the nuclear proliferation aspect of the character, more the environmental aspect of the character, and puts a whole new meaning on it in a really, really engaging film. I've loved ever since I first saw it and was pleasantly surprised by, and have continued to find more and more to appreciate with each watch.
I remember when we covered it on the podcast, I found a new appreciation for it. You know, that's something that is both really, really awesome and kind of upsetting, is upon my rewatch most of the Godzilla films for the podcast, I have found a new appreciation for, and I've liked more, which is great, but it's also like, okay, so now everything's kind of falling into the same, like, oh, this is pretty good because of XYZ. And it's not necessarily, oh yeah, I don't like this. I think Gigan, I felt more negative about. I think that's really it. I think the rest of them I've found a new appreciation for.
God, I can't wait till we get to City on the Edge of Battle. I can't wait for you to love that movie.
I'm not going to love that movie.
You are going to find a new appreciation for it. You know, I know someone who thinks it's like their top 3 Godzilla movies.
I hope I never meet that person.
And this was in their watch through of the entire series.
I hope that I never speak to them. Now, moving on from the best adapted film. As the title suggests here, I've probably already forgotten what this category is called. Similar to how I forget the title of every movie we're covering, despite the fact I spend 8 hours plus working on each episode knowing the title. This category lets us celebrate what listeners feel like is the best episode we have covered this year with the category, what was it called? And the nominees for what was it called are Episode 94, Godzilla vs. Hedorah. Episode 113, Terror of Mechagodzilla. Episode 85, Destroy All Monsters. Episode 89, The Rug Cop. Episode 112, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. Episode 100, Everything Is Wrong with Zillafoot. Episode 115, Kaiju in 2025. Episode 99, Gamera vs. Gyaos. Episode 86, King Kong Escapes. Episode 102, The Cloverfield Paradox. Episode 98, Daimajin. Episode 95, Ultraman Rising. Episode 92, Super Legend God Hikoza. And Episode 107, Yokai Monsters Spook Warfare. So we have a lot of nominees here, and the award for what was it called goes to Episode 113, Terror of Mechagodzilla.
Wow. Honestly, not my pick. I'll get into that later, but damn, I'm pleasantly surprised to see the variety.
There was a I believe this will end up sans the Oh No, There Goes Tokyo award. I believe this is our most varying of nominees. I mean, granted, just in general, this category has the largest count, I believe, outside of, again, Oh No, There Goes Tokyo, for what counts, just because, I mean, it's every episode we've done this year, and we've done 20, I think 30, actually. I think it was closer to 30 episodes this year. One thing I do love is the fact that there's only 4 Godzilla titles.
That's true. Not many, all things considered.
There's 4 Godzilla titles, a King Kong title, a Gamera title, Daimajin.
The Rug Cop?
The Rug Cop's in there. Cloverfield Paradox made it onto this one, which it's funny. That's funny.
That's crazy.
Spook Warfare made it on there. Hikoza made it on there. Zillafoot, I think it was, Zillafoot, I feel like makes sense since it was like episode 100. There's a lot to be had and said here about the nominees and then the winner. I feel like the winner, no offense to anybody who's listening, but I feel like the winner was a little bit more of a biased pick.
I'm going to have to agree. I don't think there's any real contender other than Episode 99, Gamera vs. Gyaos. I feel like that episode, just in researching that episode and discussing that film, not only was my whole view of that film in particular changed, but honestly, I think it's affected the way I look at that era of the kaiju genre. And honestly, it is responsible for me just looking at Dai and Masaichi Nagata in a wholly new lens.
I definitely agree with you there. I too picked episode 99, Gamera versus Gauss, for those exact reasons. I feel like us, when we covered the Japan Film Export Association and Nagata and everything there, like, not only does that recontextualize Gamera versus Gauss, but it recontextualizes Dai, like you said, and then it recontextualizes the year 1967 for kaiju films.
Right. I feel like it says a lot to that ever since that anytime we watch a Dai film now, we're always looking out for a certain angle in the politics of these films, seeing if there's anything resembling a certain viewpoint, you know?
Yes, yeah. You're right on the ball with that one. I think audiences and fans will enjoy the next episode, because we definitely do dive into that. I don't think as extensively, but I think that's because we did do I think we did, in honest, like, generally, I think we did a very good job covering those topics in the Gauss episode.
In general, I think that's just the best episode we've ever done. I think it's my favorite of all time.
I think it's up there. Another one, like One Cut of the Dead, like the amount of stuff we did for that one also was really good. Honestly, like, I think Hedera was a banger of an episode as well.
Hedera, yeah, that was good.
I think there's a lot of good things that have been covered, you know? I think Spook Warfare was another good one. I'm starting to really enjoy just how much we're able to cover, how much ground we're covering per episode. And so stuff like that's just really nice to see. That's also why I'm very happy that we do have such a wide selection of nominees. I think that speaks to the quality of our episodes in a general sense.
And on a similar note, for all the movies we've covered in our mainline episodes, we've also released various bonus episodes covering a broader spectrum of topics. To celebrate our best bonus episode or special this year, I present the Love More Exposure Award. The nominees are as follows. Bonus episode 24, G-Fest 29, Monster Conversation Harryhausen Annual number 3, The Golden Voyage of Sinbad. Bonus episode 27, Kaiju Unleashed interview with Sean Pryor. Bonus episode 29, Godzilla Day 2024. Bonus episode 28, interview with Billy DeBose on Godzilla Battle Royale. Bonus episode 20, Titanic Creations Yongari interview. Bonus episode 23, Terrell Christie, aka Lost Utopia Films interview. And lastly, bonus episode 26, G-Fest 29, Godzilla Final Wars 20th Anniversary panel. And the winner is bonus episode 29, Godzilla Day 2024.
That is not surprising to me, simply because last year, Godzilla Day 2023 won this category.
Right.
So we have, again, back-to-back.
I mean, it's Godzilla Day, you know? It's like a national holiday for us.
Right.
International holiday.
And I think just being able to cover and talk about all the news and reveals and whatnot that happened throughout the day, I think that's really fun for people. And I think just our excitement of like, oh, look at all this exciting stuff that's coming. I think all of that just kind of falls into that. I don't necessarily agree, but that's because I have a more personal connection to one of the other bonus episodes. My vote for best bonus episode is bonus episode 22, Yuzo Interview Supercut, which is a compilation of the interviews I conducted for my work on the Blu-ray for Yuzo, The Biggest Battle in Tokyo. I didn't get to use all the information that I got, and we got to publish that on the feed, which I think was really cool. I love having that opportunity to have those people talk about the stuff they do.
Oh, 100%. No, I honestly have to agree with that one. I think that's probably the best bonus from this year. Yeah, it's a great interview with 3 absolute legends.
Speaking of legends, as we saw with my performance in Zillafoot.
Wow.
Sorry.
Okay. Way to be humble there.
It takes a lot to be an actor, especially if you want to be a good actor, which I'm not. Named after the nickname given to Akira Takarada in his honor, This award is to celebrate all the leading men in the films we cover over the year. So I'm proud to announce the nominees for the Mr. Handsome Award. Our nominees are Hiroyuki Kawase as Ken Yano in Godzilla vs. Hedorah, Christopher Sean as Ken Sato in Ultraman Rising, Akira Takarada as Jiro Nomura in King Kong Escapes, Katsuhiko Sasaki as Akira Ichinose in Terror of Mechagodzilla, Akira Kubo as Katsu Yamabe in Destroy All Monsters, Masake Daimon as Keisuke Shimizu in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, Tony Kendall as Cliff Chandler in Yeti, Giant of the 20th Century, Jun Fujimaki as Yasutaro in Yokai Monsters, 100 Monsters, Hurricane Ryu as Tamura in Executive Koala, Jeff Bridges as Jack Prescott in King Kong 1976, Fuyuki Moto as Hatsuo Genda in The Rug Cop, Kazuki Kato as Sanpei Toyama in Monster X Strikes Back, Attack the G8 Summit, and Shintaro Katsu as Kishu in The Whale God. And the winner for the Mr. Handsome Award goes to Masaki Daimon as Keisuke Shimizu in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla.
Interesting.
Takarada lost for the second year in a row when he was nominated for his own award.
That's brutal.
He lost last year to Renosuke Kamiki for -1 when -1 swept the awards. So it's kind of sad to see that Takarada lost. Granted, he was only in one of the films we covered this year.
That's true.
And it's definitely not his greatest work.
Really? We only covered one Takarada film. That's crazy.
It's really cool to see Masaki Daimon get it, as I've met him. I have a photo with him, so that's really cool.
Wow, way to show off. All right, Mr. Humble.
If we're talking about humble, at least I do not push to have my name in here.
Wow, that's like bare minimum.
Rex, what do you got for us on the Mr. Handsome Award?
Honestly, it was a tough choice, but I think I had to go with Shintaro Katsu as Kishi in The Whale God. That was a film that I was interested in, but it wasn't one of my most excited films to watch that year. But I think what really made that film as much of a standout as it was is its two lead characters, Kojiro Hongo and Shintaro Katsu. I'm actually a bit disappointed that Kojiro Hongo's character in that film wasn't one of the nominees alongside Katsu. If I had to choose one in The Whale God, it definitely would be Kishu, who is just such a well-defined and very, I don't want to say likable because he's not likable, but a very easy to hate but very engaging to watch antagonist. And having now seen the first Zatoichi film just the other day, I can pretty safely say that it also goes to show the range of Shintaro Katsu as an actor.
I agree. I don't agree with your pick. I picked Katsuhiko Sasaki as Akira Ichinose in Terror of Mechagodzilla.
Might be some bias there, if you ask me.
A little bit of bias. I agree. I took a step back and I looked at the performances. Some of them, I do remember, maybe not for a good reason. Some of them I do remember, but it's okay, but not necessarily as much as this other performance. And then some of them I look at, I'm okay, I don't remember this. I don't remember their performance. I don't remember, really feeling moved by them. I kind of went with the one that I remember the most. Ichinose is one of, the defining characters in Godzilla for me. When I think Godzilla characters, he's going to be top 10. And considering, the actor who plays him was not in many Godzilla films, this stands out among his roles. I think says a lot about this character.
Honestly, fair enough argument, won't lie. Alongside the handsome leading men we've highlighted today, I think we also must bring attention to the brilliant but unfortunately often overlooked women of the kaiju genre, which is why I am here to present the What Do We Namikawa This Award for Best Actress. Our nominees include Keiko Marti as Miki Fujinomiya in Godzilla vs. Hedorah, Linda Miller as Susan Watson in King Kong Escapes, Tomoko Ai as Katsura Mifune in Terror of Mechagodzilla, Miwa Takada as Kozasa Hanabusa in Daimajin, Antonella Interlenghi as Jane in Yeti, Giant of the 20th Century, Yukiko Kobayashi as Kyoko Manabe in Destroy All Monsters, Jessica Lange as Duan, as she's called in King Kong 76, Nozomi Ando as Kikyo in Kibakichi, Tomoko Umedwa as Machiko Shima in Godzilla vs. Gigan, Linda Hamilton as Amy Franklin in King Kong Lives, and Reiko Tajima as Saiko Kangusuku in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. And the winner is, unsurprisingly if you ask me, Tomoko Ai as Katsura Mifune in Terror of Mechagodzilla.
Once again, I took a step back, tried to look at all the nominees. Okay, who do I remember the best? Who gave good performances? Do I remember them for a good reason, or is it a bad reason? Like, what is the technicalities here? Looking at this, I had to vote, and you're going to say, well, being biased. But like you said, to no surprise, I think it's very obvious Miss Tomoko Ai as Katsura Mifune in Terror of Mechagodzilla deserves this win. She does such a great job as Mifune on not only just being a heartless cyborg, but also being a human as well, having that duality, the duality of man. I think she does an amazing job at that. I've met Miss Tomoko Ai. She's a very sweet lady.
See, you say that I'm gonna make fun of you for this, but honestly, no, I have to completely agree that out of every woman that has appeared in the films we've covered, I feel like Tomoko Ai really delivers a very special, very powerful performance that is honestly underappreciated performance in the franchise as a whole. Unfortunately, with this genre, given that it is pretty male-dominated, a lot of women don't get a lot of time to really shine as much in this genre, but Tomoko Ai is one of those rare exceptions where Katsura's character, even if she's not the lead character of the film, even if she's not the protagonist, really is the one to leave a lasting impact after the film is over. No, that is 100% a deserved win.
You brought up powerful performances, and while in the kaiju community, it is, it's not necessarily popular to talk about the human performances. It is popular for kaiju fans to ask other people what their favorite kaiju is. Many times that question can become a little monotonous. However, when you're a kaiju podcast and you're celebrating kaiju and tokusatsu films, it almost seems like a shoo-in for a category. And I'm proud to present the Oh No, There Goes Tokyo Award for Best Kaiju in a Film We've Covered. The nominees for this are Godzilla Evolved, Godzilla 1968, Yeti, Mechagodzilla 1975, Mechagodzilla 1974, Godzilla 2019, King Ghidorah 1968, Titanosaurus, Gappa, the baby version, Zillafoot, Godzilla 1973, Godzilla Supercharged, Gamera 1966, Titanus Doug, Gigan 1972, Daimajin in the Mothra Larva. And the award for Best Kaiju goes to Mechagodzilla 1975.
Yeah, show Mechagodzilla. That tracks. I am kind of noticing a small pattern here, though, I must say.
We are seeing a little bit of a dominating award-winning title.
I'm noticing a mild fan favorite is getting that fan favorite treatment.
Rex, what do you take from the nominees, and which one would you pick?
I think the nominees really show that there is just such a massive variety in kaiju, from the more animalistic Godzilla, Yeti, to the mechanical doppelganger who won this award, to even more outlandish, more mythical beings like King Ghidorah or even the Triphibian Gappa. For me, I have to go with one that I find to be one of the most creative of all time, Gigan from 1972. He's just one of my all-time favorite kaiju. My first Godzilla toy was a Bandai Gigan figure based on the Showa design, and there's something really special to Gigan that makes him stand out amongst the ranks. And in saying that, there really is no wrong answer here.
I agree. One of the beautiful things about kaiju films is even if the script is really bad or the effects are abysmal or the direction just doesn't seem like it's there, the pacing's off or whatever, the designs usually are always what shines through.
Is this a commentary on Heisei Godzilla?
The creativity that comes through, that is easily one of the most consistently fun and interesting aspects of kaiju in general is the designs and the creatures themselves. I think the nominees showcases truly just how Godzilla alone can have a varying range of what people want. You know, people who voted for Godzilla 1973 over 1968 made that decision, right? Like they saw the list and they said, okay, I'm voting for Godzilla 1973, not Godzilla Supercharged or Godzilla Evolved or Godzilla 2019 or Godzilla 1968. I'm voting for Godzilla 1973. And I think that's the same with Mechagodzilla. Like there was two options for Mechagodzilla. Mechagodzilla 1974 and Mechagodzilla 1975. And the fact that 75 won showcases that people once again made that decision. And I agree with the audience here. I voted for Mechagodzilla 1975. I have a similar reason. My first Godzilla toy was a Mechagodzilla toy. My first Godzilla movie was Terror of Mechagodzilla. I fell in love with Godzilla over this robotic dinosaur. It's a very important thing to me. Without Mechagodzilla in 1975, there would be no Convies. It's something that, while yes, a fan favorite, it's kind of sweeping most of the awards. It's important to this show because without it, this show wouldn't exist. If you take away Mechagodzilla, you don't have Kaiju Conversation.
In saying Gigan is my favorite, characters like Mechagodzilla are so close behind. It's, when parents say, it's like picking your favorite child. Like, I don't want to pick my favorite Godzilla monster. It's like, I love King Ghidorah. I love Mechagodzilla. Hell, I love Gamera, DiManna, Mothra, everyone. Like, I love them all. Titanosaurus,
I really like that analogy. That's actually really good.
Following our choice of favorite kaiju, I feel it would be remiss of us not to highlight at least some of the people responsible for bringing each and every one of these creatures to the screen for us spoiled fans to goggle over and discuss at nauseating lengths. But only one of these creatives can be the very best, like no one ever was.
Oh, God.
With the Kitamura Makes More Films Award for Best Director, the nominees include Yoshimitsu Banno of Godzilla vs. Hedorah, Ishiro Honda, director of Destroy All Monsters, King Kong Escapes, All Monsters Attack, and Terror of Mechagodzilla, Shannon Tyndall of Ultraman Rising, Jun Fukuda, director of Godzilla vs. Gigan, Godzilla vs. Megalon, and Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, Gianfranco Parolini of Yeti, the Giant of the 20th Century, Takanori Sugimoto of Red Tears, and lastly, Kimiyoshi Yasuda, director of Daimajin, Yokai Monster 100 Monsters, and Yokai Monsters Along with Ghosts. And the winner is Ishiro Honda. Once again, I feel like this, of all the categories, is probably the least surprising to me. A, because he just in general had the most films that we covered. B, 3 of the films that he directed here happen to involve a certain Godzilla.
And the other one's Kong.
Yeah, that too. So yeah, I can't say this is very surprising win. Not to say that it's undeserved by any means.
I feel like it's almost like required. I'm not saying that we twisted people's arms to vote for Honda here. It's very obvious Honda would win.
Now we need Takarada to win Mr. Handsome.
Honda winning this makes so much sense. I'm not surprised that Bono made it to the nominees.
Very happy to see him there.
Same with Fukuda. I think obviously they're both Godzilla directors. And they deserve to be on here in their own right. I think it's really cool that Yasuda got on here. I think he's a great director. I'm very happy. I'm surprised that Parolini and Sugimoto got on here. Personally, I have to agree with the audience here. I voted for Ishiro Honda, Destroy All Monsters, King Kong Escapes, All Monsters Attack and Terror of Mechagodzilla, because you can't go wrong with him. I would say he's the greatest kaiju movie director that ever lived.
Yeah, and this is another one where I'm going to have to agree. I mean, Honda, if I don't ignore my bias for a second, Honda is possibly the single most inspiring filmmaker to me, just from how much his work means to me as a whole. His filmography, it's so large, and there are so many films in there that I just absolutely adore like no tomorrow. And even out of this selection we've got here, even though 3 out of the 4 of them are Godzilla films, it feels like there is such a variety in what all these films are and how they feel. I compare All Monsters Attack to Terror of Mechagodzilla. Those films are very much 2 very, very different beasts from one another, and I think that shows a range that Ishiro Honda has that I feel like is less talked about. There is a certain expectation in the feel of Godzilla and Showa kaiju movies that sometimes what makes certain kaiju movies really distinctive from one another is really less appreciated and less discussed than it should be.
That being said, however, sometimes these filmmakers can produce films that don't stand up. Somebody who made it to the qualifying round but not nominated was, of course, Adam Wingard. And in 2021, Legendary and Warner Brothers released one of the most infamous Godzilla movies on this show. Ever since then, we have continued to throw as much shade towards that movie as we possibly can.
My favorite punching bag.
So now every year we vote for the movie that is closest to Godzilla vs. Kong that we've covered. And that falls into the category of, oh my God, I can't believe it isn't Godzilla vs. Kong, the worst film covered on Kaiju Conversation for the year. Your nominees for, oh my God, I can't believe it isn't Godzilla vs. Kong are Godzilla Kong the New Empire, Zillafoot, Yeti, Giant of the 20th Century, Red Tears, All Monsters Attack, The Rug Cop, The Whale God, Monster X Strikes Back, Attack the G8 Summit, Godzilla vs. Hedorah, and Executive Koala. And the winner for the Oh My God, I Can't Believe It Isn't Godzilla vs. Kong award is Zillafoot from 2021.
Yeah, that speaks for itself, honestly.
I'm not surprised that films like Godzilla Kong got nommed, or Yeti, Red Tears. I'm not even surprised Executive Koala and Monster X Strikes Back got on there. Hedorah makes sense, and AMA just because of like where they stand in the fandom, generally speaking.
Yeah, All Monsters Attack, I'm not surprised by. As much as I disagree wholeheartedly with that opinion, I'm not surprised in the slightest to see it here.
Right. It's knowing your audience. It sounds like you've also voted Zillafoot.
Yeah, that was... You were there for that experience.
I was.
You know how much mental turmoil I went through in watching that. Turmoil that I very, very rarely experience in films. I don't like to focus on the negatives, and I mean, with Zillafoot, I am kind of deliberately focusing on the negative. It was actually a painful experience at points. I don't know if the alcohol made it more bearable or worse.
Even though I was in it, I definitely can understand and do agree. It's kind of a...
Oh yeah, no offense, Mr. Actor Man.
I definitely understand it, and I see it. It's a hodgepodge of a bunch of stuff thrown together, and it really shows that in a lot of the film.
Explosions and large action set pieces are what many would consider peak cinema. They are quite commonplace in this genre, in fact. However, if you were to ask Martin Scorsese, you'd be told that's nothing more than theme park nonsense.
Thankfully, we're not Martin Scorsese. As our final award for the night, we present to you Martin Scorsese's Peak Cinema Award in honor of the best films covered on the show this year, from the beginning to the end. These are the films that the audience listening, you, the listeners, voted for as the best movies on the show.
Godzilla vs. Hedorah.
Terror of Mechagodzilla.
Yokai Monsters Spook Warfare.
Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla.
Zillafoot.
Destroy All Monsters.
Ultraman Rising.
King Kong Escapes.
Yeti, Giant of the 20th Century.
Godzilla vs. Gigan.
Godzilla Kong, The New Empire.
This is very interesting. We had the same situation last year where I believe it was Death Kappa won. Oh my god, I can't believe it isn't Godzilla vs. Kong. And then it got nommed for Peak Cinema as well. And here we have, yet again, Zillafoot won that, and it got nommed. So we have that.
I'd love to see a year where the worst film also wins best film.
That would be a lot of fun. Obviously, there's a lot of Godzilla here. You know, Hedorah, Mechagodzilla, Terror, Destroy All Monsters, Gigan, and GK. Ultraman once again shows up. King Kong escapes. Spook Warfare. It seems like Spook Warfare is considered the best out of the yokai monsters from what we've seen, like, in these votes.
It's so nice to see the yokai monsters appear again and again in here.
Yeti has consistently shown up in every single
That's
one
so
of these.
true. I think almost every, if not every category it's had a anything to vote for, it's gotten.
We've consistently seen the same titles showing up for all the nominees, which I think says something. Here we have the addition of Godzilla vs. Gigan, which is really nice to see that a Fukuda film outside of Mechagodzilla 74 got onto one of these lists. I'm not thrilled that GK got on here, but c'est la vie, you know, it is what it is. Now, Rex, who is the winner of Martin Scorsese's Peak Cinema Award?
Well, it is, naturally, very unsurprisingly, Terror of Mechagodzilla. Yeah, I cannot say I'm surprised at all.
So I'm going to go ahead and jump in here. I'm not surprised by this. I'm really happy to see this. I don't think it's any secret, and I don't think I really need... I mean, you can go listen to the episode. You can listen to literally every...
I feel like you've explained almost every reason you can for why it's peak cinema.
I too voted for Terror of Mechagodzilla 1975.
Well, Terror of Mechagodzilla is certainly up there, but it's in the conversation, no doubt. But once again, I'm going to have to say what I said with Best Adapted Film and put Godzilla vs. Hedorah as the Peak Cinema Award for me, because I really do think it is just kind of peak. One of my favorite films of all time, one of my favorite Godzilla films. And it's wonderful.
I think you've time and time again continued to show your love for that film. And, you know, at the end of the day, I think for anybody listening, if the one you voted for didn't win, I still think, you know, the nominees in of themselves won something. You know, the fact that they made it past the round of qualifying, right? Like, if any of this was covered in a movie this year, it qualified.
It's so fitting for Godzilla Kong, The New Empire to appear in both the worst and best.
It absolutely does. That's kind of par for the course. I think -1 also got nommed in both.
I think you're right, actually. Come to think of that.
But like last year, and this is something that's kind of nice this year, is last year -1 swept everything it possibly could. Whereas here, while yes, Terror of Mechagodzilla did win a majority of it, look at like the Mr. Handsome Award, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla won that one. Daimajin's Rampage won the Tsuburaya Toku Talent, and there was a Mechagodzilla nominee there. And that's very, very nice to see. It's truly wonderful to see that stuff show up here and see the nominees. And even like my pick for the Satoko's Video Award didn't even get nominated. That doesn't mean that it's still not good. Was there anything that like stood out to you from this year, Rex?
Honestly, I feel like I'm kind of not really surprised by most of this. I am pleasantly there's been like a couple surprises that I'm very happy to see, like Daimajin winning Tsuburaya Toku Talent over some of the most iconic scenes in the Godzilla franchise. I think that is a really pleasant surprise. But that's also kind of a testament to a lot of the quality of a lot of the nominees here. That really, one of the winners especially, I'm not surprised at all. That was the Kaiju Convies of 2024. Thank you to everyone for listening thus far. Whether you're a new or old listener, even if you've only listened to a single episode, even if this is your first episode, which what a way to start. But if this is for some reason, somehow, your very first episode, from the bottom of both our hearts, we'd like to thank you for the time that you've given to us. Over the course of this year, we've shed lots of blood, sweat, and tears, and lost a lot of sleep. Especially someone here. In the end, I think I can confidently speak for both of us that it really was worthwhile. I've grown and changed a lot over the course of 2024, and I believe Kaiju Conversation is a big part as to what has helped shape the path I walk today. So thank you all for your help in making 2024 such an absolutely wonderful year. And I hope to be able to relay the exact same message next year in 2025.
That's beautifully said, Rex. That's really beautifully said. I don't think I can really add much more to that. I do have one last thing to say, unless you have something else you wanna say, or
no, go ahead.
Well, hello. I'm Elijah, and I have a kaiju and tokusatsu problem. Joking aside, I am Elijah Thomas. I'm a writer. I've written for GodzillaMovies.com, Kaiju Ramen Magazine, and Kaiju United, of which I'm the chief innovative officer for. My writing has been featured in the book Giant Bug Cinema, a Monster Kid's Guide from Bear Manor Media, where I wrote about Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. I've also been given the privilege to work with my good friends at Giant Monster BS on their second season of their podcast as a creative consultant, covering independent kaiju films. Outside of writing and podcasting, I also served as a consultant on the Titanic Creations officially licensed Yongari articulated figure. They are available to purchase now. Supplies are limited, so go to titanicreations.com/Yongari to order yours today. I've also had the privilege to produce bonus features for SRS Cinema. I've worked on Yuzo, The Biggest Battle in Tokyo, Liverleaf, War of the Ninja Monsters, Jiron vs. Gora, Hoshi 35, and a long list of titles that are coming soon. You can order these Blu-rays on srscinema.com. I'm also a filmmaker and YouTuber. You can check out my stuff on my YouTube channel at ET13 Productions, where you can see some of my short films and old YouTube videos along with an ever-growing playlist that features all of my appearances on YouTube. I do plan on getting some new videos out there soon, so definitely check that out. You can also check out my action figure photography on my Instagram at ET13_productions and my X, the artist formerly known as Twitter, thanks Danny, at the same handle. Now Rex, where can people find you at?
Well, dear listeners, you can find me on YouTube at Rexino. on Twitter at Rex_Xenomorph, and on Instagram, Rex_Xena. And if you want to check out some of my writing, go take a look at the Tokusatsu Network.
And as for the podcast, don't forget to rate us on iTunes. That boosts our ratings and helps us get recommended to more people just like you. If you don't have an Apple device, which I don't blame you, I don't. That's a lie. I'm reading a MacBook. I've used the MacBook this entire time. But you can rate us on Spotify now.
Entire year.
It's so true. To stay up to date with all things Kaiju Conversation related, head over to www.kaijuconversation.com to find our episodes, social media, news, and updates. There's also a section on the Convies where you can see last year's nominations and last year's winners. Follow us on Twitter at KAIJU_CONVERS. If you don't have Twitter, you can follow us on Instagram or like us on Facebook. If you're like me before podcasting and you don't have any social media, lucky you. You can email us at kaijuconversation@gmail.com, all lowercase, all one word, you know the drill. And as always, we'll read your reviews on air for everyone to hear. We also have a Teespring store. Eventually we'll have original artwork on there, but until then, you can sport our awesome logo on a t-shirt or maybe even a coffee mug. If you'd like to chat with us, check out our Discord server full of others that have similar interests to you. Recently, we had a discussion about the 1959 film The Ghost of Yotsuya from Daiei. It's a great community full of great people. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you can be notified anytime we upload a video. We sometimes post exclusives to the channel like bloopers for episodes or minisodes talking about news or other subjects. And a huge thanks to Rex for editing all of these episodes and the other content we upload. His links can be found in the description below. Along with Rex, we'd like to give a huge thanks and shout out to Danny DiManna of the Godzilla Novelization Project for his amazing vocals on our theme song. You can support him by following him on Twitter at Danzilla93_GNP or visit his website GodzillaNovelizationProject.com. And a huge thanks to Grattan Conwell from the podcast Giant Monster BS for composing the music for our theme song. You can support him by following the podcast on Twitter at Giant Monster BS or on any podcast platform under the name Giant Monster BS. And with that, we're going to wrap things up here. So thank you guys so much for listening. Season 5 is out. Season 6 is coming up very, very soon. Stay tuned to your podcast feeds. It will be coming quicker than you think. And as always, please remember, life's too short to not talk big. Bye, guys.
Bye.
We are set, we are in debt, there's nothing to sweat. Life's too short now, baby. To not talk big now, baby. Conversation. His name's Elijah, baby. And also Rex now, baby. We love those kaiju, baby. And you will too now.